So what's up, guys? It's Chris. Welcome to VHP Engines. I said I was going to give you guys some content yesterday. I didn't really follow up on that, and that's typical of me. Whatever. Is what it is. But anyway, here now. And two things I want to talk about. One quick, one kind of long. I guess it just because they could go long. That's my thoughts on the whole new Civic Type R situation, right? Now, I know a lot of people like to rush to get their first opinions out or opinions out right away when something first drops, but because it's a hot topic, it's a new hot topic, everyone wants to get the that clickability shit on there. But because my content is so sporadic this past year or so, it doesn't really matter for me. I like to let the new info percolate. And for those guys of you that have been long time watchers, you know that I'm all over the place on whether I love or hate my FK8. And but I think to be fair about my situation with that, I've been pretty consistent that the biggest complaint I've had is the car is fucking slow. It is. It's a slow car. It's consistently you're seeing stock fucking dyno pulls of FK8s tuning, pulling into 272 to 80. It's a significant drop from the 306 that it's advertised as, and you can definitely feel it. If you've ever been in a decently fast car, you're gonna get in the FK8 and it's gonna make you smile, but it's not gonna make you impressed. Like the FK8 as in stock form is not a car that you're gonna sit a passenger in and you're like, yeah, look at this. I guess unless you've been driving base model Toyota Corollas and Civics your whole life, maybe then it would be surprising. But for anybody who's been in any car with any kind of respectable power, it's not gonna blow your socks off. It actually makes me a little embarrassed sometimes. If I'm taking somebody for a drive for the first time, they're like, do a pull. I'm like, it's not really much there. Where the FK8 really impresses, which of course is what the car was built for, is the twisty turniness and the track like that. And I've never been on a track with it, but I have used the streets as a track from time to time, and it is a fun car. As long as you're not trying to wind it out on a straight, it's a lot of fun. It's really responsive, so you get a lot of you get that instant response from the car, and it feels good up until around 5,000 RPMs, and which I guess is right around where VTEC would kick in, it's kind of funny because that's where it seems like it kind of falls off. Once you start to wind it out, 6,000 RPMs, you know that you're not feeling any more real pull. It's kind of topping off and maintaining. So yeah, okay. So to talk about the new Type R, actually, I'm in a situation where I said a couple months ago, that I'm or not a couple months ago, but last year, I was I'm been debating on switching out of the Type R for a faster car, because the thing is, I want a car that I can buy that's stock, but feel good in it. I don't feel the urge to modify it because it is good as how it is. So I need a car that's 400 horsepower or right close to it to really be okay, I don't really have to fuck with this car. But then, of course, there's a situation with the S2000, which I'm been on the verge of being finished with for months now. So I've, trying to reassess and be calm down. You're about to have a legit fast car. I just enjoy the Type R for what it is. And I do. There's a lot of times where I find myself out of my car on road trips. And I'm well, I would love to have the Type R for this situation. Just recently, I went to go see James over in Texas. James Moore from Texas Honda Channel, or James D. Guy, the guy who paints cars in his driveway. And while I was driving out, there's a lot of back roads to get to where he was at from where I was coming from. And the one thing that kept running through my mind as I'm driving this base model Corolla out there is that, man, I would love to have my car for this. This would be a lot of fun if I was driving my car. So the Type R is great. Now, as far as my opinion on the new FK or the FL5, I like the car. And I'm not surprised that I like the car, because I kind of saw that, we all saw this coming when the 11 Gen Civic debuted. One of them, aesthetic wise, I know that there's a lot of controversy around the FK8, but my thing that I don't like about the FK8 is the ass end of it. I think that it's one of those situations where the modern hatchbacks don't really resemble hatchbacks like the hatchbacks of old, except for the Toyota GR Corolla or the Toyota Corolla hatchback. That's definitely a real hatchback. But the newer generation hatchbacks seem more like wagons to me than hatchbacks. But anyway, looking at the car, if you walk around it, look at it from all kinds of different angles, the FK8 looks fucking amazing all the way around, especially when it's lowered on some wheels. The car looks fucking out of this world. I like the way the car looks. It's just when you get to that rear end view of it, it's huh. Now the FL5, I much better appreciate the rear end. So it's got a much nicer back end. As far as like the Civics go, like the 10th gen Civic is my favorite body style ever. Like out of all the body styles that came out, like this one didn't need to grow on me. It's great, but it looks best as a sedan. You know, like where it's got an actual defined trunk to it instead of like, you know, that flat-ish slope thing going on. So I like the sedan style better. You know, I had an SI for a year before I had the Type R. I really enjoy that body look. Now, so that's why the FL5, you know, all just general body lines, I think I appreciate the FL5 more. And why I said I thought I was going to like it more is because looking at the 11th gen Civic, you can see what the body lines are going to be. And honestly, the Type R isn't very far off from that. It's got like a different bumper and maybe a little bit wider fenders, but it's so plain overall looking that you can't even really tell that it's wider. And that's been the biggest complaint that people have had for the FL5 is it's too fucking plain. Now, to talk about the whole plaininess of the car, I think it's one of those things where it's kind of funny. Like one of the biggest things that detractors talk about the FK8 Civic Type R is that it's a Hot Wheels car. It's a Hot Wheels car, boy racer, boy racer. You hear this shit. It's like one of those things where a couple people grab onto that one thing or the two things and they just spread the same shit around. But honestly, this complaint is coming from people who haven't owned the car. It seems for the most part, most people that are saying this shit are just people that are floating around in the groups but haven't actually bought a Type R. So I think that the situation is with the backlash and the kind of people. There's a lot of people from the sorry, to finish the thought on the whole boy racer thing. That's I think that it's one of those things where it's kind of like a nonsense moot point because they're saying like, oh well, you need to tame the Type R because it'll appeal to a greater audience. Well, the Type R debuted in like 2017. It's 2022. The prices haven't gone down, even with the impending coming of the FL5. Like the prices for the FK8 still haven't really dropped. A cheap FK8 is like $38,000, maybe 36 with like 60K miles on it. So for people to come and say that it needs to appeal to a wider market, like I don't think that's the case, man. Like the sales doesn't really say that that's the case, and like the sales price. Now, I had somebody say to me the other day, like every car is expensive right now, fucking because of the COVID market or whatnot. Okay, so COVID's been around, the whole COVID situation and the market flux has been around like that for about 2 years now. Again, the FK8 came out in 2017. That car has been over MSRP for the entirety of its run. The entirety of its run. It still is. Like they're talking about the FL5 coming out like sometime this year. Those cars still regularly sell for $40,000+. If you're in the market for a used one, you're still spending like 40 grand. So I think what the MSRP is like 35 or 36,000 for the FK8, and it's not been anywhere near that like ever. So for the price to be where it's at, and the fact that Honda dealers can't keep these on the showroom floor just completely blows that hot boy racer shit out of the water, because people are lining up in droves to buy these cars. And I don't think that's ever going to go away. Like at first I was kind of worried because I was like, I've been debating on whether I should trade out for a new car or not. And I was worried that my value on the FK8 was going to tank once the new one came out. But I don't think that's going to be the case. And you can just look in the groups and see the people's, comments and opinions on that. Now, to be fair for the FL5, I think that there is definitely some part of the FK8 groups that are hating on the FL5 simply because they are not going to be the new boy on the block anymore. Oh, I hate it. I'm keeping my FK8, all this shit. I think that there's a big part of the fact of the group out there that they love the exclusivity of the FK8 of being a Type R owner, and now there's going to be a new Type R owner on the block, and they don't want that to invalidate the fact that they own a Type R, even though they're going to own the old Type R. Well, the more I've looked at it, the more I've looked at the FL5, I guess I have my minor kind of gripes, but not really too much. Like I enjoy the FL5 for what it is. Like I don't think that the car needed to be muted or toned down. I think that the FK8 is fine what it is, but I think that doesn't take away from the FL5 either. I think that both of these Type Rs are going to be iconic in the decades to come. Both of them are going to be highly sought after cars. just like the EG and the EK. Those 90s Civics, those two generations of 90 Civics are still, you know, widely loved, you know, by the community. Like they're both equally loved for different reasons. Both of them have a different little bit of tweaks in the design here and there, but I think that people drool over both cars still, and rightly so. Now, I personally think that you have to do a little bit more to the than the EK to make it look overall better, but you know, like it's kind of like the EP3 where everybody hates on the car, but put the, you know, the Type R, you know, side skirts and bumper and shit, you know, and all, and then the car looks really great. Same thing with the EG for me personally. I think that if you put a little bit of stuff here and there around it, just a little bit to accent the lines, make them a little harder, and the EG is a great car, a fantastic car. The EK seems to come more angular for me, which I kind of like that kind of thing better. I like the harder body lines than the more rounded body lines, which I guess is the reason why I can say that I like the FK8's look overall compared to the FL5. Now, of course, we're gonna still need the FL5 to come out and people start making kits for it and whatnot. But if you look at the FL5, the FK8, and just lowered on wheels, and maybe the Mugen kit, like I don't even think you have to have something like that, but the car looks amazing. Like you don't need to go all out crazy with doing like, you know, wide bodies and shit with the FK8, because for the most part it's already there. Like I know there are wide body kits for this, but judging by the price of them and judging like how they look already, I don't really think that those things are necessary. I think the FK8 is almost perfect as it is. Now interior wise, my initial gripe for the interior for the FL5 is like I said, I just recently drove a base model Corolla as a rental car. It's a current generation, and it had that infotainment where instead of being in the dash, it's like above the dash where it sticks out. Now driving it was kind of weird because it's like you have your dash line here, and of course it's where your field of view is, and then what breaks that field of view is that screen that comes up, and it's kind of weird looking across the windshield having that chunk of windshield just be like blocked by that screen. Now so at first I was like, I don't know if I really like that too much, but then going back and thinking about it, I'm like, well, in that car when I was driving it, I couldn't use the maps on the display. I had to use the maps on my phone. It's something about the setup that needed to be done. I just didn't have it set up properly, so it wasn't working out. Now, I do think that if you are using your maps and it's properly working, that would be convenient to have, because you're not looking down, you're just kind of glancing across. So because I didn't get to experience that, I got to wind that criticism back a little bit and be like, you know what? I need to give it, you know, a chance to be able to use it as it's intended, to be able to really judge whether I like it or don't like it. So I guess I'll kind of hold my reserve thoughts on that. And I like the idea of the red carpet. Now, I don't like vacuuming a lot, so that's going to be a pain to maintain. But I think that if you've been a long-term Civic, you know, or the Honda enthusiast, I think that like for me, I think I'm like 15 or 16 years into my Honda craze. And at some point in time when you own these cars, you're going to do the red carpet swap, or you're going to try. And it was disastrous. If you go for those Chinese aftermarket molded carpets, they don't come out looking right. Like I wound up going back to the original carpet. Now maybe you can make the argument that I was just bad at cutting it or whatnot, and that somebody doing a better job would have made it look better. But it just didn't look right for me at the end of the day. It kind of looks cheap. It doesn't look as clean as the original. So I think that the fact that the new Type R comes with this red carpet is cool as fuck. And now it's going to be a pain in the ass to maintain. Yeah, but at car shows, it's going to look hard. One thing I can say that I definitely absolutely love over the FK8 is like your console, where the FK8 is like they have those two hard plastic lines that divide the fuel and the cooling, the temperature and whatnot. I like the fact that they got rid of that and they compacted it all into one spot, and I like the layout of the dash as well. It's kind of like somebody said it was reminiscent of the S2K, and I would have to agree that it is. So out of all the things, that's the one thing I can say that's a major upgrade for me that I absolutely love. Also, there's talking about doing a custom setting for you to lever to or whatnot when you're doing for your drive mode. For me, depending on how you activate the custom setting, I would probably just put all the custom settings to R mode. And if the custom setting is like the first click down, then that's what I would do. One of my biggest gripes from the FK8 driving wise is that you have to click twice to get to R mode. You have to click and you have to wait a couple seconds for it to fucking register in the car and then click again. Now, I like driving in comfort mode. It's softer, magnetic suspension. It's better for these roads. South Florida roads are always under construction, and it's better to just have it, in comfort mode when you're driving. And if you want to do a sprint and you want to go up and you use full throttle response and all that stuff, you go to Type R mode. But again, you have to click. So you can't just click and go. You have to click, wait a couple ticks, and click again. And that's it feels like forever when you're just driving the car and you need it to go quick, or you want it to go quick for whatever reason. So if there is a custom mode and it's a one click down, then I would just put everything in R mode and use a custom mode to go straight to that, so I don't have to click twice, because that's a pet peeve of mine that I fucking absolutely cannot stand. I hate it. But again, so I guess overall to talk about is I think both cars are going to stand apart, and I think they're both going to be well sought after. And the rumor is that the next power plant, and it wouldn't surprise me, is going to be a hybrid model, because if you're watching F1, right now they're in the turbo hybrid era. And they run V6s with a battery on it, and then of course it's in the NSX as well. So the technology's already been put out through Honda, and again, it would make sense for them to go. Now the good thing for that would be that if they do that, you could probably expect a decent amount of horsepower. I think that at that point we'll probably finally get like a 400 horsepower or near 400 horsepower Type R, if that's the case, because you'll get the extra power off the battery. So that would be cool. But there's going to be a lot of purists that aren't going to like the idea of a hybrid power plant in that. And then I guess you could also say that the eventuality of maybe creeping towards an automatic version would be there. And I don't like that idea either. So I think that both of these Type Rs, even though one of them's contested right now, I think that they're both going to age well. I don't think the price is going to come down much off the FK8. And I think that in 20 years from now, the car is going to be crazy expensive. Also, another thing is too, somebody was making comparisons on production models in the United States and whatnot, and how many were made. Somebody said that there was they were using a Pontiac GTO and like the Evo as a reference. He's like, the Pontiac GTO had like 56,000 models when they were made. How many Pontiac GTOs do you see on the road? Not very many. And as far as FK8 goes in the United States, there was only like 20,000 something that were actually made in the United States. So right now they're kind of, if you're living in a bigger city especially, you're going to see a lot of them around, and they are really popular cars. But I think that as time goes by, I think you're not going to see them very much anymore. Same thing like the Evo 8 and Evo 9. I can't remember the last time. Okay, I can remember the last time I seen the Evo 8, which, I'm pretty sure that the Evo 8 was the first one that came out in the States. If I'm wrong, then, oh well, kill me later. But I want to say the last time I saw one, if I am not mistaken, was when I was in El Paso, when I was in the Army, and that was 2011 or 12. The last time I seen the Evo 9, I can't remember at all. The Evo 9 is one of those cars that it's iconic, and you don't see very often. And I think that's how the FK8 is going to age. Like, it's one of those cars, and that's another thing when I was getting impatient, should I trade my Type R or whatnot? Is within the last couple of weeks, even before the FL5 and the reveal was coming, I started saying that I think that if I get rid of this car, that I'm going to regret it. And it's because I've started to enjoy driving it. Now, I think what my overall goals are going to be is I'm definitely going to keep this car. I'm going to try and build an engine on the side. Business has slowed down this year, so I can't. I was hoping to finish the S2000 and go straight into building the K20C1. But I'm not going to do what I did for the S2000. I'm not going to pull the engine and then rebuild it and put it back for two reasons. One, it's my daily driver. I want that car to be functional all the time. Two, I want to be able to have a backup engine at all times. And three, which reverts back to one, it's my daily driver. I don't want to have any downtime with this car. So I would prefer to build an engine fresh from scratch, just buy everything, build a long block, and then when I'm ready to do the swap, it's just literally a swap over, so it's going to be down for like a weekend or whatnot. But yeah, I've been on the fence for the longest time, whether I'm going to buy a new car or not. And finances, that I can say that finances kind of help make that decision right now, but at the same time, not really. I've finally fully come to the decision that I like the Type R enough to keep it. I think it would be a mistake to let it go. I'm going to finish paying it off. I'm just going to own the car. It'll be mine. And now I'm starting to think that there's a decent possibility I might buy an FL5 as well. I think what I might do is keep the FK8, pay it off, fucking build the car, have it as a little monster car, and then buy an FL5. And, because the way things are right now, my son's 11, going to be 12. I think that if by the time I finish paying off this car and then buy the next Type R, I'll be able to have my son drive one and me drive the other. So we can literally have both Type R's in the family. Both of them, actually have some use. It looks like the FL5 will be something that'll be nice to drive. Like, I think that was some more tame car for daily driving, and then use the FK8 to really make some power. And as far as speaking of power, because my biggest gripe, like I said, has been horsepower. I don't think it's fast enough from the factory. And for those of you who are saying just do bolt-ons or whatever, the K20C is not a very reliable power plant. It's gone are the days of yesteryear where K20s are making 600-700 horsepower on a stock engine. This is just not the case. And if you don't believe me, you don't take my word for it, because I know you see a lot of guys out there making power, but you don't see a lot of these guys when they're blowing up because they're not broadcasting it. But Luke from 4Piston Racing, the Honda gurus themselves, like the legit Honda guys, they're saying that pretty weak from factory. Pretty weak from factory. Just like the L15. These are pretty fucking weak from factory. Do not do much to these cars. Once you hit around 400, like they were saying, once they had two Type R's. Once you hit around 400 horsepower, they snap. They blow up. Now, I know that a lot of people that are like, that are hardcore Honda fanatics or FK8 fans are like, oh, well, it's because of the fuel system and whatnot. Well, you got to remember what makes these 4-cylinder engines hold up so well at high horsepower, right? Usually it's a big fucking turbo, right? It's a bigger turbo, so the torque comes in full swing later up in the RPM range. It's not as much of a shock to the rods, which is why you're not snapping them so much. When the boost comes in later and the full power and torque comes in later, the rods hold up a little better. But the problem is the FK8s, most people are doing full bolt-ons, or even people who are doing turbo upgrades, the turbos are only like yay big, guys. They're like real small. So like I said earlier in the video, let's talk about you get fast response from the turbo, from the Type R. That's because it's a little turbo. You get those. That's why you get the faster response. But because of that, you're making that torque and that power super early in the power band, and those rods just aren't hanging up to that. They're just not hanging on. They're letting go. So that's why I'm saying, I would like a faster car, and that's why I'm not rushing to modify, because I've seen people like just do a tune and blow up. It's crazy. So that's why I'd rather just build something on the side and then go from there. Now, as far as the power of the new Type R, it's the same power plant, guys. It's the K20C one as well. They didn't change out the engine. They probably made some minor tweaks. For those of you guys who've seen it, it seems like they have like a new little box on the inlet pipe, and that could be is just like an extra plenum, a little bit more volume of air, and it looks cool, and it probably accounts for a couple of foot-pounds of torque extra added to it. So there's that. I expect not much horsepower increase. Honda's not stupid in their marketing. They're leaving out they're doing tidbits at a time because that they can legit do a spin on it. The new FL5 could be 300. I'm sorry. I don't know what the final horsepower number was for like 2021. I do believe the 2021 model had a little bit more power rating from factory than the earlier ones. Like the original ones are 306. I believe maybe 310 or something from the newer models. Don't quote me on that. I haven't cared enough to look. But let's just say, to make it easy across the board, let's say all the FK8s are 306 horsepower, right? But let's just say that all of them are 306. If the FL5 is 308 horsepower, that's nothing. It's 2 horsepower gain, but it's still higher. So Honda can say it is the most powerful Type R ever, even if it's only 200 horsepower, because it's technically not a lie. So I think that it's just a marketing play. The reason why they're not releasing the numbers, it's kind of like with the SI. I think did they even take a step backwards? Like it's less power or the same? I think it might be a little less than the original L15 that came in the last generation SI. But they're touting it as like more power because of where it makes in the power band, and then like the ass kissers of Honda are out there making excuses like, oh yeah, well it feels better here, whatnot. At the end of the day, guys, if it's real close in power, I don't give a fuck where it really makes it in the power band. You're not going to notice much difference. It's not going to be much different on the street. If you're racing somebody, you're not going to go out and race your homie, race them in a new car and be faster. I seriously doubt that. So I guess that what could be one drawback is like, I guess to see, because the FL5 is probably going to get a good markup. Like it's probably going to be marked up pretty high, and the power is going to be pretty much the same. So that's an issue for me. But if I do wind up getting an FL5, it's not going to be anytime soon. It's going to be later in the run. So I would imagine that if I'm paying markup, it'll probably be the same amount of markup I paid for my FK8, which you know, it makes me salty that I paid that, but it is what it is. So I gotta see how things go. I feel like, you know, with my other two cars that I'm drooling over, that I want, the ones I really want the most, is just I want a C8 Corvette and I want a Supra. The C8 Corvette, even if I go and order one, it's still a little bit on the high side for me right now. 60K plus guaranteed, versus if you know, getting the Supra, like if I were to wait a couple years for it to be used, like, you know, I could get it in the $50,000 range, which is doable for me. I think that the Supra is going to be like, it's had a really long production run, and they're coming out with manual versions now, so I would imagine they're going to get at least 2 or 3 more years of running that, because they have the A90 and now the A91, and now they're going to have the A91 as manual. I think we're going to still see some, you know, a good amount of production years on the Supra. I think if you look at it long term, the Supra is going to have a bigger drop off on resale value than the Type R's are. So I think if I just chill out and wait a little longer, I'll be able to get one, and I'll be able to get one at a price that I'm really willing to pay, versus if I do it now. And all right, so yeah, I'm gonna wrap this up. And sorry if I didn't, you know, maybe touch on the FL5 as much as I thought I was going to, but there's not really much to say. You know, I just like, I like the body. I like the body style overall, because I like that more sedanish look instead of hatch look. I don't really like the hatch look to it. I like the sedan body style more. I definitely do think it's a more tame thing, so maybe you're gonna pick up a couple more enthusiasts. I like, you know, I just like it as a chill car. I think you know, the interior looks pretty cool. It looks like a great car to daily drive. You know, not do anything to it, just daily drive as is. I think that the FK8 is going to be one that's going to be a lot more fun to modify. Like, I don't have any gripes with the interior for the FK8. You know, I guess I'm probably due for a steering wheel change, because you know, that's starting to look old and dingy. So maybe that'd be the one thing. But I like the FK8. Like, the longer I've kept that car, the more it's grown on me, because within the first 6 months I was kind of bored. I was like, all right, I want something faster. But I think just chilling out, finally joining the FK8 groups on Facebook and just seeing more of them and seeing what they look like, I think it's gonna be a fun car down the line. Like, once I can, you know, build me an engine on the side, make me a little 450 horsepower on pump, I'll probably absolutely love the car, and it might be something I keep forever. Or who knows, maybe if it ever gets that $60,000 resale value or whatnot, maybe I'll do that. Who knows? Because money talks. You know, everything has a price tag at the end of the day. Even the S2K. Like, I'm at the point now with the S2000 where I'm like, yo, I'll finish this car, tune it, you know, sell it. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Don't know what's gonna go down in the future, but that's just that. And guys, thank you for watching. You got any questions or comments you want to you know, address to me, leave them in the comments section below. That's what it's there for. Guys, I'm just like, I'm not very active in the DMs anymore. If you got any tech questions or whatnot, I really don't care to talk about it, you know. And I definitely don't care to talk about it in a place where everybody can't see it, because then it's like I'm just talking to you. And that's the reason why I made YouTube to begin with, so I don't have to give the same answer to every individual person who asked me. I like to say it in a public place, that way everybody can hear it. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Social media links in the description down below. I am most active on Instagram, but I mean, you can reach me on Facebook or Snapchat as well. All right, guys, peace. Thanks for watching.